It's probably the most scared I've ever been of anything in my life. Forget the plane crash, everything else. That deal was so intimidating. Just get me on the plane home. Worst experience of my entire life.
Ric Flair had walked away from a plane crash. He bled in steel cages, stared down riots, and lived through things that would have broken most men. But in North Korea, for the first time in his career, the Nature Boy stopped performing and started surviving.
Horrible.
North Korea.
North Korea.
North Korea.
North Korea.
North Korea.
North Korea.
North Korea is considered one of the most isolated countries in the world. Its leaders have presided over human rights abuses, according to a UN working group, comparable to the Nazis. Recent escapees speak of severe oppression, intensified ideological control, and surveillance, making the country even more isolated and impossible to escape. An interesting venue for a wrestling show. As Ric Flair's plane touched down in Pyongyang, he had no idea he was about to walk into the most dangerous wrestling event in history. And once the Nature Boy stepped off that plane, there was no going back. He didn't know it yet, but before the trip was over, Flair would be forced to do something that went against everything he believed in just to get out alive. And the first sign something was wrong came the moment he stepped into the airport.
They took our passports, right? And then they separated us. But they put me in one hotel and the other talent that came along in another. And I knew right away I was in trouble. Everybody I called that I knew in politics said, don't go. Then they wanted Hogan. Hogan said, I can't make that one, brother. So I automatically went, yes.
Flair wasn't travelling alone. A small group of American and Japanese wrestlers from WCW and New Japan had been flown in for the special event. Among them, boxing legend Muhammad Ali, a man who built his legacy on speaking his mind. But after arriving in North Korea, even Ali was lost for words. According to Flair, he didn't say a single thing for over 2 days. There was no welcoming committee to greet the men's arrival at the airport. Instead, each wrestler was assigned a guide. At least that's what they called them. On paper, they were there to help. In reality, they were the regime's eyes and ears. Every step, every word, and every breath would be watched. And once the surveillance was in place, then came the rules. Now, in most places, breaking a rule might get you a slap on the wrist or a bit of a warning. In North Korea, people disappear. Lucky for us then that wrestlers on tour in the 90s were famous for following rules, and nothing bad happened to anyone and everyone went home happy. Just kidding. Over the course of their stay, the men would break every single rule. These wrestlers didn't just make trouble, they almost created an international incident. So let's take a look at exactly what happened.
God, I hate it.
The first crack didn't come from violence. It came from something small and relatively trivial. Someone went for a jog. In America, that's exercise. In North Korea, it's movement without permission. As the man went for his early morning run, commuters heading to their posts didn't greet him. They didn't even make eye contact. The jogger was Eric Bischoff.
It's dark out. Streets were completely deserted. I'm running, sun's coming up. Now all of a sudden, I see people starting to come out into the street. And as I'm running through the streets of Pyongyang, they're parting. They were looking at me like something out of a monster movie.
When he returned to the hotel, his guide was waiting and sternly warned him not to leave again without a guide. This was North Korea's version of a gentle reminder, but as we'd find out, the next reminder wouldn't be so gentle. Scott Norton wasn't trying to break a rule, he just wanted to call home. He was explaining to his wife that he wasn't on a wrestling tour filled with parties and photo ops.
I've been trying to contact her for 3 days. I says, hey babe, she thinks that I'm out partying with the guys. And I says, Tammy, you don't understand what kind of hole I'm in here. And all of a sudden the phone went click.
2 minutes later, there was a heavy knock at the door. Norton expected to open the door and find a wrestler playing a prank. Instead, he found armed North Korean military officials asking to see him. A struggle ensued, and the men dragged him into the hallway. They didn't take him outside, they took him down, past the lobby, past the guest floors, into a level that no one else on the tour even saw. Norton was brought into an interrogation room. A high-ranking military official stepped forward. "You don't speak about our country like that," said the man. Norton tried to explain that he'd been arguing with his wife and lost his cool. "In our country, we don't argue with our women," said the man. No shouting, no violence, just a clear message that everything said aloud is overheard. When the soldiers finally let him go, Norton quickly returned to his room. For the remainder of the trip, he wouldn't try calling home again. What was about to happen next would be a lot more serious than misplaced words on a phone call. As the days passed, paranoia wasn't just coming from the regime. It was leaking into the camp of wrestlers. The first to crack was Too Cold Scorpio. While Ric Flair was being driven in private Mercedes, being treated like royalty, the other wrestlers were crammed onto a rattling bus. Resentment built, and a throwaway insult was hurled by Scorpio. One of Flair's close friends, Hawk from the Legion of Doom, fired back. The two men got into fisticuffs on the bus. Witnesses say it was chaotic and out of control. Later that night, Scorpio sat in his hotel room. So angry he was about the incident that he picked up a pair of metal chopsticks and began sharpening them against the floor. His plan was simple. If another altercation occurred, this time Hawk would live to regret it. And that's what this place did. It made wrestlers start thinking like they were prisoners. North Korea wasn't just watching the wrestlers anymore, it was about to use them. The spectators to the stadium didn't arrive like fans, they arrived like a formation. Hundreds of thousands, not invited, but ordered to attend. Flair said it was the biggest crowd he'd ever seen. And before a single match began, the regime put on a show of its own. The entire stadium flipped coloured cards in perfect sync, forming an image of a rocket launching straight towards America.
It was like synchronized swimming, right? They show a rocket ship, and it shows the rocket flying right over Japan and landing in America. It's unbelievable.
Ali, sitting next to Flair, muttered under his breath.
The guy is talking, and there's an interpreter talking about how they could destroy America and whatever. And Ali taps me in the leg. Keep in mind, he hasn't said a word on the trip yet. He goes, "No wonder we hate these some."
For a split second, it sounded like the Ali the world knew, defiant, sharp, and unafraid to voice his opinion. Flair panicked. He leaned in and told Ali to keep his voice down.
"Please don't start talking now. Just tell me later."
This wasn't a wrestling show. It was a demonstration of power. Over the course of the 2 days, every match happened in silence. When Flair stepped out to face Antonio Inoki, Inoki wasn't just a wrestler to North Korea, he was a political symbol. The match didn't just close the show. It set up something far more dangerous, because North Korea wasn't finished with Ric Flair. Rule number 3 was still waiting. A man walked straight to Flair, holding a piece of paper. "Read this," he said. It was a script, praising North Korea and emphasizing their dominance over the USA. And it would be delivered on camera.
They wanted me to make a speech on CNN. They wanted me to say that after visiting North Korea, I knew that they had the power. Before they gave me my passport, that I thought North Korea could defeat USA hands down. Before they gave me my passport back, and so I said I can't do that. And Chinoy said, "Well, I don't know if they'll let you out here without making that statement." I go, "Okay, here we go again."
Ric Flair didn't have a choice. Refuse, and he wouldn't leave. The only way out was compliance.
So anyway, I made it sound like they could be intimidated. I made it sound like we wouldn't back down to them, but there's a possibility that they could win.
It was this mastery of words that ended up getting him through. The result was freedom.
Ali and I got in that private jet. When we landed in Nagoya, I got off the jet and kissed the ground. We're supposed to be there for 4 days. We were there for 7. They kept us 3 more days.
Flair survived a plane crash in 1975, but North Korea was the only time he truly believed he might not make it home. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give us a subscribe.